Highly successful individuals are always focused on what's next, but they often don't take time to reflect on their journey and how far they've come. I'm Craig Heatherly, host of the Path Less Traveled podcast, where we dive into the journeys of extraordinary leaders. Their success rarely follows a straight path, and that's what makes their story so remarkable. Now let's dive into this week's episode after a brief message from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by Mosier Consulting, the powerhouse behind some of the most innovative technology solutions in northern Indiana. For 30 years, Mosier has been delivering best-in-class solutions. If you're a leader in your company, Mosier is your partner in progress. With deep expertise in analytics, AI, managed services, Microsoft, IT savings, and strategic consulting, they don't just support your tech, they elevate your entire business. Mosier Consulting, technology experts, real results. Visit mosierit.com to learn more. Looking for top talent in tech or professional fields? Avero Talent connects businesses with exceptional candidates, specializing in tailored recruiting solutions that match the right skills to your team's needs. Whether building a team or searching for a tough-to-fill position, Avero Talent delivers the expertise you need to hire smarter, faster, and with more confidence. Let us help you find your next star employee. Welcome to the Path Less Traveled podcast, Season 3. And this week we feature Jenni Zachary, the president and co-owner of Transport US. Welcoming you to the show, Jenni. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
You started this company, Transport US, back in January 2020.
Yes.
But before we get to that, I actually want to get to a press clipping that I just came across in preparation for this. Back in October, you received an award. It's the RV Alliance Trailblazer Award for Lifetime Achievement. Is that right?
That's correct.
What does that mean? Because you're pretty young.
Yeah, I actually thought maybe that means I'm done, but I'm actually just getting started. So there was nominations, and I believe I was nominated by an employee that worked for me, which was very kind. And she had a lot of great things to say about me, which was nice. But qualifications for that award, being in the industry over 20 years, having had some important impact in the industry and the way things happen today, and just mentoring others, mentoring men, women alike. And so I was more than surprised when I received the honor, and I don't take it lightly. I like I said, I feel like I'm just getting started.
Yeah, for being in the industry over 20 years as a qualification, I guess, tell me about your involvement within the industry over your career to provide you the opportunity to receive an award like that.
Okay. So actually, after college, I was a social worker here locally. I have a psychology and sociology degree. And within the first year, I received a call from my dad, who was running an RV transport company at the time. And I had worked for him for summers on end growing up. I think I told you earlier, at 14 on crutches, he had me in there answering phones. I thought that was a little bit uncalled for, but he taught me
because of an ACL injury
yes,
too, right?
Injury, yeah. He taught me how to work. My mom and dad both have a strong work ethic. So anyway, after college, after about a year, he just said, I don't want to sway your plans, but we have an opening if you're interested. And it was selling truck insurance at the time to the contract drivers. So I did it. I thought, if I see myself ending up back in that realm, why not do it now? And I did. And I continued to work for him and grow through different leadership and management opportunities, and had a wealth of operational knowledge after that experience.
Success changes the game. Your business is growing. New opportunities, ambitious goals, greater impact. But growth brings complexity. More people to lead, more moving parts, less time and space to think and connect. And when leaders feel that strain, teams do too. At Cressy Leadership, we help leaders navigate those challenges. Through individual coaching, group training, and our Leadership Academy, we build the skills and strengthen the connections that make growth sustainable, helping teams communicate openly, tackle challenges together, and stay aligned on what matters most. Cressy Leadership. Envision what's possible.
So you started the company in 2020,
Yes.
January 2020.
Yeah.
So tell us about that time, but then also tell us about what Transport US actually is.
Yeah. So our first month of operation was January of 2020, and it was obviously exciting because we were new. I remember our first couple orientations with drivers. It was just exciting. People were glad to be there, excited about what the future held. And then 3 months later, we were all quarantined and trying to figure out what was going to happen. Fast forward another few months after that, and our industry started booming. And finding drivers was easy because so many other industries were not back at work yet. As many have heard, RVs sold more in the end of 2020 through the middle of 2022 than ever before. So we really boomed and kind of just, I think, when you think about the processes and things you want to put in place, it kind of went to the wayside at some point because you're just running so fast until it finally all crashes. And then you go, great, now what do I do? Mm-hmm. So that was really kind of our experience starting out. But it was fun. I think my number one reason for wanting to really dive into Transport US was to have the autonomy to make decisions that I felt were important to me. I would consider myself a people-first, vision-driven leader. And I've noticed I pay a lot of attention to the people around me, what they say, the lives that they've had. We all have a story. And one thing I've noticed sometimes in the work environment, we spend so much time here, more time than we spend with our own families. And it needs to be an environment that makes people grow personally and professionally, but also where they leave feeling refreshed and not always feeling like, I just want to break. So things like adding an extra day, holiday day at Christmas, giving them 3 days instead of 1 to be with their family. And just feeling like that's my decision to make right now. What can I do to make people's lives here better than what it was before?
And I've got an example of that. I actually asked one of your teammates, Emily, her thoughts on just your superpower or something that those outside of here should know about you. And she said your superpower is that you meet everyone where they are at. You treat them like individuals and you give them the tools to really flourish. And that impact in recent years has been a game changer for her personally. I'm sure that's the same for others. So you're making an impact.
Thank you.
Well, I want to talk a little bit more about just what you guys actually do. Yeah. You mentioned the RV industry. You obviously started back in 2020. Give us a little bit of insight into the business.
Okay. So Transport US, we specifically specialize in RV transport of newly manufactured RVs delivering to the retail customer. We also we move some vehicles, boats, other things as well, but it's towable RVs. So think of your travel trailers, fifth wheels. We don't do any drive away, which would be a motorhome type of business right now. So that's our primary commodity that we move. And it's interesting because for a long time, people would go, well, what's your purpose, right? Like, why is that important? Obviously, it's important. I mean, it's providing fun lifestyle and like the things that going RVing does is important. More than that, though, what I've really honed into in the last couple of years is transportation in general is very important to our lifestyle, to our economy. And in Indiana alone, there's over 42,000 trucking companies. And that number, when you think of it, is kind of staggering. A lot of them are small, but there's also large ones too. And they say in Indiana alone, 1 in 12 jobs have something to do with the trucking industry. So I've started looking outside of just RVs and saying, okay, how can I be an advocate for transportation in general? And I've had the ability to meet some wonderful people, be a part of some groups that work on legislation that's important in the state and at the federal level. And that, to me, when I look at overall from a purpose standpoint, it's providing opportunity and stability for people to thrive. It's not necessarily delivering the RV. It's important to get it there when the customer needs it because those people, they have to run their job. But at the end of the day, what we do matters because it provides stability and opportunity for people.
This passion to do more and have more of an impact for groups beyond your company, like for the industry, where does that passion come from? Because it's a lot of time. I'm sure that you're investing beyond this company. Yeah, where does that come from?
I have a very competitive nature, one. So I don't like anyone that tells me I can't do something.
I love that.
And I also enjoy learning a lot more today than I did 20 years ago. And so it's exciting for me to do something that I mean, like instead of shying away from things you don't know, you go and you research it and you figure out about it and how to advocate for it. So for me, that's a huge part of it. It's continual learning for me, which keeps my brain fresh, which has not been easy to do. I've noticed in my 40s at this point, and that's important. So one of the other reasons, I remember a couple of years ago, I was down at the State House and we were working on some legislation, trying to get legislation passed, which makes a huge impact in transportation overall for the state. And the way I saw it was, it's the difference of whether I stay in business or not, which is huge for me. It's huge for my family, but it's not just that. It's about being able to be a small business owner, whether it's in Indiana or another state. And growing up, I did not see myself as an entrepreneur. That wasn't a goal of mine. It wasn't like, oh, I'm going to go own a business someday. I knew I would work hard. I wanted to do business and work that was meaningful to other people. But, when I had the opportunity to be an owner of Transport US, I thought that wasn't a goal of mine. Fast forward a couple years, and when I was at the State House talking to the Judiciary Committee, one of the things I said was, I have a 13-year-old, he was 13 at the time, and if you asked him what he wanted to be, he would say, well, I'm going to be an MLB player. Like that, duh, MLB. But if MLB doesn't work out, then I'm going to own my own restaurant. And I was like, he wasn't just going to go, he didn't want to be a chef. He wanted to own the place. Thought, where does that come from? But actually, it comes from me. And that was a really cool acknowledgement of what I'm doing is to preserve my company as a business owner, but also to preserve the dreams of my kids and other people who that never would have been a dream of theirs before.
That's great. I love that. Thank you for sharing. And I can absolutely relate. I mean, it's so cool to sit in these and be in these conversations with individuals that owning a business they may not have thought it was in the cards for them. They'd never seen it, witnessed it growing up, it being modeled, and they did it and the impact that it's having on their family, which is why I just love this podcast and I love hearing stories like that. So the title of the podcast is The Path Less Traveled. When you think of that and you think about your leadership journey, I mean, what comes to mind?
I remember there's a couple of things, you remember along the way. In an early conference I was at, it was a leadership conference. Someone was just talking about how you have to remember in life that just because the road changes doesn't mean the goal changes. And that has helped me a lot in my leadership career of remembering, because I'm a planner. To an extent. I shouldn't say that. I think I like control. I like to know how things are going to work and how the end goal is going to turn out. And so it's really hard sometimes when you hit that roadblock and it's not what you were expecting. And so that reminded me that you have to be able to pivot, right? When you hit those roadblocks, pivot. It doesn't mean the goal changes. It just means how you get there does. And that's been pivotal for me. And I think that's part of the path less traveled is being able to adapt and recognize that just because you change how you get there doesn't mean your final destination is different.
Well, we've talked about your background a little bit, and now you've used words that are driving me to my next question. Just so you know, you've now said you're a planner, control, process, journey, and then you just said the word pivot a couple of different times, and then you said you were a competitor. I want to just tie all this together. What kind of an impact did athletics have on your upbringing in your world, and even now your mindset? Tell us a little bit more about that.
Huge, honestly. I was the youngest of 4 siblings, and sports was a major part of our life as a family. Our family vacations were tournaments for my brothers. My 2 older brothers were quite a bit older than me, and so growing up, they were in high school and college, and then my sister and I are just 2 years apart. And So I always had, especially with my sister, I always had a practice buddy, a workout buddy. We were very different, so we were never competing for the same position. She's significantly taller than I am. But for me, it was one of those things where I think I also felt like I had the control to be better, right? How much effort I put in was what I got out of it. And it was a good lesson to learn at a really young age. You have to put the work in to see the results and see the results long term. So it was a huge part of it taught me discipline. It taught me leadership, although I look back sometimes and think, as a young person, you could have been a better leader, but those are all learning experiences.
Yeah, you mentioned your three older siblings and yourself all played college sports or college basketball specifically?
We all played basketball. My sister and I both played volleyball and basketball.
In college?
Yes.
My goodness, there's not many two-sport athletes out there anymore, but even then, it's hard to do.
It is. My sister and I went to Huntington together, and
that's cool.
That was helpful. Maybe I should say she was my mentor growing up because, she was definitely the one leading me along the way.
Well, let's talk about mentors, to where you're at today in 2025. And, we kicked it off with talking about the Lifetime Achievement Award. And then you've talked about family, the influence of family and siblings specifically. I guess, who are some mentors that do come to mind and kind of what was their impact on you?
Working for my father for many years, he was definitely my biggest mentor for a long time. He is also a people first type of person. I enjoyed very much learning from him and watching the example that he led in the office and outside in the home as well. He's loving and kind, and he was just someone I looked up to. In fact, I think I said I worked for him for so long because I was just repaying him for being a difficult kid at times, probably.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So currently, though, in the last few years, as far as mentorship, in early of 2023, this was about 6 months after kind of the RV industry tanked after COVID. And I remember it was probably January, February in my office thinking, okay, how am I planning for 2023? What's it look like? Are we going to survive? I received an email out of nowhere from a gentleman named John with a group called C12. And I could tell that it was kind of vague. It was inviting me to a luncheon, like, hey, come see what we're about. I gathered that it was like a peer group for business owners and CEOs. I could tell that it was faith-based. And I actually called my dad and was like, did you have someone email me? Like, you thought I probably needed some help, like times are tough, right? And he didn't know what it was about. So I went to the luncheon and I went to a forum. It's a forum that meets once a month from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. And I went to one of the forums as a visitor. And I remember leaving going, I need this. It's a forum that meets with, like I said, CEOs and business owners of companies in the area. We have a forum leader that really is your mentor. It is a faith-based organization. In our day that we meet for the forum, we talk about critical business strategies, things that are actionable, like what can you take back to the office and really be an actionable leader. And then we also have a faith-based segment. How are we leading in faith? What kind of kingdom impact are we bringing to the people that we're surrounding ourselves with? And really also looking at your work-life balance. Where is it at? We grade ourselves each month. The last 2.5 years that I've been part of that group has honestly been pivotal for me in growing as a leader and changing my mindset from just doing and kind of being like lead by example to just truly leaning into people and leading. And as a company, this is what we need to do, or this is what we need to implement. I'm learning a lot. I'm growing a lot, but I have had 2 different mentors there that have been so helpful to me to talk about, hey, this is my current situation. How do I handle it? To hold me accountable to saying, did you do anything about that yet? It's important no matter what stage of life you're in. If you think you know it all and you think that you have no opportunity to grow, you might as well just step away from your team because you're no use to them. You have to keep growing and learning.
This continuous improvement journey that you've been on as a young person in sports till now, clearly that organization has had a big impact on you. My question to you is kind of what Because each moment, each time of the year, each season of business requires something maybe different from their leader. What are you working on now to take your next step in your leadership journey that this moment or the future requires of you?
I'm not one to read a lot of books. I wish I were. I'm not. I enjoy podcasts. I will grab a book every now and then. I have books that I feel like I should read and then books that I do read, right? And they're both important. And I always sway more towards people. I do think in my current journey, I think I do very well at practicing empathy. I also think we live in a world where we are mistaking empathy for agreement. And so just a couple weeks ago, actually, I was traveling and I picked up a book called Toxic Empathy.
Toxic empathy?
Toxic Empathy.
Yeah.
And I've started reading it. And it's helpful for me because what you have to be when you're people driven and you're relational, you also have to make sure that you're not taking advantage of or that you're not holding people accountable because you're afraid to hurt their feelings. And so it's just about, for me right now, that's a piece that I think I need to get stronger at. How do I still remain empathetic and people driven, but still hold people accountable as a leader? How do you do that? Showing grace. So that's one of the things currently that I'm working on, I think I enjoy learning about those types of things.
Well, tell me about your leadership style and maybe how that's evolved over time, or we just talk about things that you're currently working on that's top of mind. I guess overall, you as a leader, what would you hope that is perceived by others?
I'm pretty confident that the people that have worked for me now or in the past would tell you that I won't ask them to do something I wouldn't do myself. And I think that's important. But as I've transitioned and as the company's growing, I'm also recognizing the need to say no to those things, to delegate, and to also be more visionary. I am a perfectionist. And that's the other thing I think in the last 5 years I've recognized. My perfectionism helped me achieve several things. Starting off in sports, right? The need to be better than others, practice continually, all of those things. As I've gotten older and look back at how I want to help others, I've also realized being a perfectionist has caused me to at times lack creativity or procrastinate. And so being conscious of that so that I can truly step back and be a visionary leader rather than just a doing leader. It doesn't mean I won't still do it. I can step in and help when I need to, but you can't empower others if you're not providing a vision.
How do you find moments to get creative, to be in your own thoughts, to step away from the chaos and complexities of life? Have you sorted it out? Because I think this is really important, and I can relate. Some of my biggest ideas, this podcast, for example, occurred out of a big moment, a full day of stillness and thinking about the future and thinking creatively. How do you do it?
Well, I'm a work in progress. A big part of it is being able to surround yourself with people who can implement your ideas. Knowing that you don't have to be the one to do it, but to be able to think it up and be able to say, how do we get this done? A little over a year ago, my husband joined our team here at Transport US. And that has helped me because he's more of a doer. And whether we have conversations about my ideas, his ideas for the company in general, he can kind of channel me back in and say, okay, how do we do this? How do we implement it? And a lot of it's surrounding yourself with the people who can also push you to implement those things. The other thing for me to just it's kind of probably silly, but ways for me to decompress and just not be focused all the time would be things I can control, right? So I can go home and see a wall and say, if I can get that painted, one, I have quiet time. It's me, it's music, I'm singing. No one bothers me because they know I'm painting. And when I'm done, I can look at it and go, oh, look at that. But in the meantime, I've had hours to think without interruption. I have a renewed confidence in myself that I can do things because look at this. It's now Good. And that may sound silly, but sometimes you have to have a win in the simplest of ways to rejuvenate your creativity in other ways.
No, that is really good. I'm just thinking now in my mind, Mom's painting another wall.
Yep. That's been going on a lot in the last couple months.
It's like for us in our home, here comes Amazon, or here comes Walmart with the delivery. You know what it is. And for your house, so there's another can of paint.
Absolutely.
Well, all of this has been outstanding, and, it's really cool to hear your story. You mentioned earlier about not thinking that being an entrepreneur was on the horizon for you. It just wasn't something that you kind of sought after at a young age. But with being an entrepreneur, with starting a business, it's not always roses, right? I guess as you look back on some valleys, some difficult times, or maybe lessons that you've learned through hard times of being a business owner, I guess what comes to mind and what lessons, did you learn from it, and maybe something to pass along to listeners or somebody just starting a business of their own?
Right. For a long time, I think I felt like an imposter. Like, okay, I have this position, but I don't know that I'm qualified for it. And I've been involved in different groups, seminars, and where people often say, if someone would just give me a seat at the table, then I could do that. But no one gives me this opportunity. And when I look back, I think I had a seat at a table for a lot longer than I realized before I finally had the confidence in myself to say, I can do this and I should be here. And so sometimes it's not always waiting for someone else to give us an opportunity, but looking inward and saying, what do I need to do to garner the confidence and take, ownership of where I'm at, what I'm doing, and what's been instilled in me. And so that has also been a change for me in the last couple of years of finally having confidence going, I deserve to be here and I can do great things.
And it comes with risks, right? It's a risky decision. But if you have the confidence in betting on yourself, understanding your own capabilities, your own drive, but then also the team
right,
that's assembled and put together to help get you there, it's less riskier, I guess, is what I'm thinking here. What kind of advice do you wish you would have received 5 years ago? And let's take COVID out of the equation. What would have been helpful to know then that you wish you maybe would have known?
I wish that when I started 5 years ago, I had the mentors in line that I do today. Even one of my goals last month at my C12 forum, and we write to-dos goals, was to find a new mentor, an additional one. And the reason for that is because it just helps put things in perspective. One of our values here at the company is opinions of others. And I think that's important because, again, it allows you to generate an all-encompassing view, right? To make better decisions, to be able to have compassion, and mentors help that. And I don't actually going out and seeking them versus someone just coming along and saying, oh, they're a mentor. They didn't know it. I've never told them that. But seeking that person is important. Letting them know that's what you need from them is important.
Yeah, entering into 2024, I mentioned the day of stillness that I had. One idea that came about, and then I also implemented, was creating a personal board of advisors, identifying individuals that have great strengths in different categories, whether it be in their faith or as a husband, as a father, or business leader, and just finding those people. And it was a game changer for me. And although we didn't meet as often as I would have liked to, for me to pick up the phone right now and make the call, they'd answer it and they'd help out. And there's something special in those relationships. So what a cool thing to go and pursue. Quite the to-do for you.
Yes. And then for the people to go, what? Why would you have me? You know what I mean? I think sometimes even if we don't have confidence in ourselves, we tend to exude it to others. Like they think, oh, why would you ask me for that? And so it's part of being humble.
Earlier, you mentioned saying no to things. How do you deal with that? You also have mentioned people first. And usually if you're a people first person, you typically say yes to a lot of things. At least I do. How do you manage what you say yes to and what you say no to?
That's difficult because I would say my sister is probably my best confidant in that, or we talk a lot about that. We're very similar. And part of it is this business and personal combined. The kids and my kids are all either in high school or junior high right now. And so it sounds like a silly example, but it's an example. Football season, we have team dinners every Thursday night, and it's, hey, who can make desserts for 70 people? And, it's like, how many, can we get 5 people to bring one? Well, it's not saying, no, I can't do it at all. But usually what I want to do is say, yes, and let me make it because that's what I do. And I know I can do that, right?
Yeah.
And then going, actually, I'm going to bring some, but I'm going to go buy it. And that's actually that time saving, or saying that's hard for me to do, but it's finding little silly things like that to just save an hour of time at home. It's still important. You're still showing up, but it doesn't have to be, you don't have to run yourself ragged to accomplish a simple task. And so taking time for yourself, taking time for your family, having your priorities in line helps you a lot to be able to say no to certain things.
Yeah, those individuals that sign up and stick up their hand to feed 70 hungry kids, God bless you. Because that's a lot. I know we have Thanksgiving and we host Christmas at our house, and feeding 30 people is chaos in itself. But I've been trying to push our family members to just go buy the things, please bring it. Right? What's the purpose for us getting together? Let's keep that top of mind. Not, I'm going to be late because the oven went out.
Exactly.
Well, when I came into your office here, there's a couple of young individuals in this room that helped us move some things around. But I think it's important for young people to recognize just some pitfalls of leadership and what to be aware of. So when I mentioned that, what types of things would you highly suggest somebody to be aware of, to be thinking about as they step into a leadership position, not necessarily to lead a company, but, to manage people or to manage a team or to lead a company?
One of the things that I would highly recommend is you have to lead with clarity. And if you don't know what your end goal is, like you've been given you're a young manager and you've been given a position leading others. If you don't know what your goal is with those people, with that job, you're going to fail. Don't be embarrassed to ask what that is. You also have to be humble enough to say, I don't know. Let's find that out together. It's difficult when you're young and there's people that have been working at the same office in the workforce longer than you. I had that growing up a lot. I remember someone going, why are you here? You went to college, go do something else. There's a long time where I was the younger manager compared to the people working for me. And that can be difficult, but you have to let that roll off your shoulders and say, okay, let's learn this together. I don't know that answer. That's okay to say, and it actually will get you a lot of respect in the long run. And I think that's the biggest thing. When you're young and you're leading a team of people that are older than you, it's easy to feel like you need to have all the answers, or you at least need to assume that you do or look like you do. You don't. It won't service them, and it won't serve you well if you think that.
Yeah, it's like checking your ego at the door, first and foremost, but then also, being humble enough to say, I don't have the answer, but somebody in this room,
right,
somebody on our team, somebody in this company may have that answer. And let's start there. And then also let's continue to explore and come up with a solution. It's great advice. It's great advice. A big thank you to Senior One Care for sponsoring today's episode. Founded in 2006 by Carl and Kyle Bossing, this family-owned business has provided compassionate in-home care for nearly 2 decades. If my family needed a caregiver, I'd call Kyle. With 6 Indiana locations, they give you the peace of mind while your loved ones receive the care they deserve. Learn more at senioronecare.com. My last question for you, and I'll get your final thoughts. I've really enjoyed, by the way, this conversation. What's one of the kindest things somebody's done for you? And maybe not, it could be within the business, it could be you personally, but you guys are doing kind things all the time. You mentioned making desserts for a bunch of hungry boys. What's something somebody's done for you?
A couple things come to mind. So I tend to be, I'm a caretaker by nature, and I enjoy that role. And I don't necessarily handle it well when someone tries to take care of me. I shouldn't say I don't handle it well, but it's unusual. Like it's just, shoes on the other foot. Well, it's not about me. What can I do for you? There's two instances that come to mind. The first one I will say, and I mean this with all sincerity, is my husband, Tom. One thing he did really early on in our relationship that was and is life-changing, honestly, is if I'm having a hard day or I'm able to speak about, I don't know how to handle this situation, and he doesn't have the answer, he'll look at me and say, "What can I do for you?" That's really important when you're at home to have that support, when you feel like there's a lot of weight in your everyday life. You know a lot of the things going on in the office or with people's personal lives, and I carry that weight. And for someone to go, "What can I do for you?" Even if the answer is, "I don't know," and there's nothing, just knowing that someone's willing to do something for you is important. The other thing, I don't know if I wouldn't say it was kind to me. I think that it was something I will never forget. It was probably 15 years ago. I received a call one day at my job, and it was from a driver that had worked for my dad for a long time, and then for me for probably about 10 years. And quite frankly, the driver himself it was one of those where I thought he never liked me. I couldn't get him to crack a smile. I knew he thought I was just this young kid. That was my perception.
Yeah.
Like I just really tried to kind of tiptoe around him and not upset him. Like it was always an awkward acquaintance, I guess you would. He called me one day out of the blue. He hadn't been a driver for a couple years. He had retired. He told me who he was, and I said, "Hi, Gary. How are you?" And I thought, "Oh, what is this going to be?" And he said, "Jenni, I just wanted to call you and tell you that I have cancer, and I'm not going to be here long. But I want you to know that I'm saved." I'll tear up thinking about it. I never had a conversation with this man about Jesus Christ or about being saved. He knew where my father stood, and he clearly knew where I stood. And he just wanted to call and tell me thank you. And he said, "I want you to know I'm going to heaven, and I'm not scared, and I just want to thank you." That was so impactful because you realize at that moment the weight of your own actions, of the words that you say, and that at the end of the day is the goal, kingdom impact. I'll never, ever forget it as long as I live.
Wow. Really happy I asked that question. Those two stories, how impactful. As a leader, that you wear a lot of hats. There's a lot of weight on your shoulders. And Craig Gruber a couple weeks ago mentioned his wife will ask him a similar question, like, "How can I help? What can I do? What do you need from me?" And how far that can go for somebody like yourself. And that other story of, it's for me too, it's my mission here on this earth. And it's so cool to see how the impact of words, but then also actions and how you live your life has had an impact on an individual like that. The words, "Well done, my good and faithful servant," come to mind. Well, as we wrap up, what final thoughts do you have that you'd want to share about leadership, about this company, about your journey, about anything, your industry? The final thoughts are yours, and take as much time as you want.
Thank you. So, one, as a leader, surround yourself with people that are better than you. I can't say that enough. Know your strengths and weaknesses and fill in the gaps. Empower those around you, build trust, practice empathy, encourage growth. The people that work for you, it's not just you should grow as a leader, you need to encourage them to grow also. Those are huge things for me. From a personal standpoint, I remember a hard time in my life. It was 7 years ago. I remember where I was walking around a pond, just feeling really sorry for myself and wanting at that moment someone to just come alongside me, put their arm around me and be like, it's okay. It's going to be okay. And I didn't have that, at least not from the people that I really, truly wanted it from. And I read in my devotion that night, it said, choose to intentionally follow the example of Jesus and extend grace to others. And here I was, sitting back, waiting to receive grace. Someone give me grace. That has been my mantra for the last 7 years. And it's not because, I've made mistakes. I've hurt people. I've had people hurt me. But where's your heart? You can't love others well if your heart is bitter. And extending grace to others protects your heart. It's not because the person deserves it all the time or because they even know that you did. It's your own heart. And you can't love well, you can't serve others well if you don't do that. And so that's honestly my mantra is don't sit back and wait to receive grace. Go give it to others.
This has been awesome. I want to thank you for doing this. And honestly, your heart for impact in your home, your heart for impact here in this company, your heart for impact within your industry, and then clearly your heart for kingdom impact. So I want to thank you again for doing this.
Thank you.
Well, that's it for this week's episode of the Path Less Traveled podcast. Until next week, have a great day.